Opening shot, Chicago could be a harbinger of things to come for other big cities with immigrant populations across the country. Various reports now say the Trump administration is preparing a big shakeup within the Department of Homeland Security, removing several top ICE directors from their posts and giving more work to Customs and Border Patrol. And that's the agency whose mission here in Chicago is led by Gregory Bovino, who you see walking into federal court and now on this video throwing tear gas in Little Village. Now, Customs and Border Patrol has reportedly irked some longtime ICE officials who are used to carrying out deportations in the country's interior. CBP has also roiled Chicago residents with heavy-handed raids that have involved profiling, the use of tear gas, and high-speed chases through residential neighborhoods. But apparently the Trump administration loves it. Stephen Miller once reportedly yelled at DHS officials to camp out at Home Depots and just arrest people. It appears that CBP is the agency that is more willing to do that, criminal record or not. But those tactics have led to legal hot water, underscored by today's emergency hearing, where Judge Sara Ellis admonished Mr. Bovino for videos that prove he and his agents might have been violating the terms of a temporary restraining order on the use of tear gas and other munitions. So America, pay attention. If the Trump administration follows through on today's reports of a shakeup, what we've seen here on the streets and the courtrooms of Chicago will soon be coming to a city near you. Bovino in court. A judge rules the controversial leader of Operation Midway Blitz must check in with her every weekday. We break it down. Two witnesses to recent federal immigration actions, one in Little Village and one in Irving Park, recount the chaos in their neighborhoods. Soybean slump. Anxious Illinois farmers await better news on a possible U.S.-China trade deal. And welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino must report on immigration activities and the use of force every single day before federal Judge Sara Ellis. And that was part of Ellis's ruling today after calling this emergency hearing for alleged violations of a temporary restraining order. Let's get right to all of today's action. Joining us are Carolyn Shapiro, professor and head of the Center for the Study of the Supreme Court at IIT Kent College of Law, and Robert Pape, director of the University of Chicago Project on Security and Threats. Good to talk to both of you again. Starting with you, Carolyn Shapiro, is it unusual for a judge in a case like this to issue such a sweeping demand where Bovino will now have to come in and inform her of his activities every single day?
I think it certainly speaks of her lack of confidence that he is following her order, but also she wants to give him the opportunity to show that he is. She's essentially sending him the message that what it doesn't look like you're acting in good faith, but I'm going to give you a chance to show that you are, and we'll see. Is that unusual? I mean, I think most people generally follow court orders. And so I can't speak to every TRO that's ever been issued.
Right. And so this stemming from the case where the Chicago Headline Club and some other plaintiffs' First Amendment case, basically, which then the TRO came out of, and now today's emergency hearing and the rules. Robert Pape, the judge has used a lot of latitude here to call these emergency hearings and exert this oversight. Could she be open to criticism that she is overstepping her boundaries?
If you are in strong favor of the ICE operations and you want to see hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands deported from Chicago, you will certainly criticize this judge. But what the judge is trying to do here is pretty obvious. She is trying to stop the growing escalation of tactics by ICE and the protesters against each other that's been occurring for the last several weeks. Now, of course, each side thinks they are in the right. ICE thinks it is right, that it has the moral right and the legal right to keep escalating tactics against the protesters. And the protesters think they at least have the moral right to escalate tactics on the other side. But what is going to happen if this keeps escalating is it's going to be very bad for the citizens of Chicago, because you're already seeing that as these escalate, then the harm, the alienation, and literally the tear gassing is spreading here to just ordinary neighborhoods. And this is really going to be very, very harmful and dark for the city of Chicago. We don't want to turn Chicago into Baghdad. It's not Baghdad, but we don't want that to happen. And what the judge is doing is trying to find ways to keep a lid on things.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to some residents or hear from them, and they are irate at what's happened. I've spoken with a number of folks that say they've been, quote unquote, radicalized by this happening on their block and in their neighborhood in front of their children. Carolyn, if more video emerges that shows potential violations, more tear gas, what do you think happens next?
I think it's likely that the judge will issue much more precise and far-reaching orders. The plaintiffs in this case asked her to outlaw all use of tear gas after the incidents that happened over the weekend and late last week, and she declined to do that. But she did say, if I don't see that the federal agents, which is both ICE and CBP, are actually following my order, which requires you to only use tear gas and comparable weapons under very specific circumstances, and only after giving dispersal orders that give people the opportunity to get out of the way and understand what happens if they don't. If I don't see you doing that, I might change my mind about whether or not to allow you to continue using tear gas. So she gave them a warning, and it's not 100% clear from the videos and social media posts, at least that I've seen, and apparently that she's seen, what exactly happened in the moments leading up to every one of these deployments of tear gas. But it seems unlikely to me, at least, that there was the kind of disruption that would justify the use of tear gas, and that it does not appear that there were the kinds of warnings that the TRO required.
Robert Pape, we were talking about this a second ago. There was a new poll that came out, I believe, from M3 Strategies that shows there are an elevated now amount of Chicagoans saying that violence against federal immigration agents would be justified. I know you've produced research about the escalating feelings on political violence, but would this seem to fit the trends that you've seen where you have militarization, you have these aggressive tactics, and it just provokes this spiral of distrust and anger?
That's exactly right, Paris. So as you'll remember, just a few weeks ago, we came out with our new survey of Chicago. That is, this is a representative survey of Chicago done in the last part of September with NORC at the University of Chicago, one of the most respected polling agencies on the planet. And the results were really quite stunning. 61% of Chicagoans do not want ICE and the Guard here in Chicago. Only 21% do. And that's true for all the different 4 parts of the city that we can map out. So this isn't like some parts of the city are radically different in this regard. And further, what you're seeing is increasing large parts of the population of Chicago are becoming more and more fearful for their own safety. That is, they do worry about crime, but crime is starting to take a back seat to the ICE operations and its consequences, right, as we've just been discussing over the weeks. This isn't just going and getting a few bad guys, like arresting somebody at the corner. This is going and truly becoming invasive in the communities. And I'm afraid if President Trump is really serious on deporting 150,000 people, that's the number of illegal, undocumented immigrants in Chicago that we have. If he's really going to deport 150,000, you're going to see massive collateral effects on the rest of the city.
Correct. And it does seem like from the reporting that they do want to continue this escalation. I want to thank my guests, Robert Pape and Carolyn Shapiro. Thank you so much, as always. And after the break, some witnesses to the weekend's raids in Irving Park in Little Village, in a conversation we had last night, but weren't able to show because of that very, very late World Series game. Right after this.